Neonic Void Productions presents.
I have no idea how to start this thing. So hello! Welcome to the House of Ideas, a podcast where I, your host, Devin, and a guest talk about comic books. Comic book heroes, characters. Mostly Marvel, for now anyway. Today I am joined by our guest for the first episode of the House of Ideas, Tyler, fellow co-host for Spookocalypse, as well as player for Voyager. Say hello. God, I am going to get the hang of this. I swear to God.
Yeah, there's a way we might need scripts put in front of us, just so something can hold our hand.
Hold her hand. But yes, Tyler is joining me today for the first episode. So talkative today.
Oh, this is where we're supposed to just be like, hello everybody, my name is Tyler, and if you've listened to Spookocalypse, you know me as Bunyip, and if you listen to Voyager, you know me as Tyler. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah.
Alright, cool.
So, hello. This is going to get things started on the House of Ideas. Again, it's the podcast. Honestly, it's a podcast idea that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, because I love comic books and I love Marvel. And I thought one day I'm going to do a podcast on this shit. And then I listened to a podcast called Cerebro, which is basically a podcast. Cerebro gave me the inspiration to do this podcast. Cerebro is a podcast where they talk about X-Men characters, where each episode they talk about Connor Goldsmith. Love him. I'm saying this now. I will have him on the podcast someday. Mark my words. He goes over different characters of the X-Men per episode. It's like one episode he talks about Jean Grey. One episode he talks about Emma Frost. One episode Magneto. One episode, he just finished his 100th episode on Madeline Pryor, aka the Goblin Queen. Like he does a character per episode. And I've been trying to figure out how I've been wanting to do this podcast. And then when I started getting into Cerebro, I'm like, you know what? He's on to something. So instead of doing one particular side of Marvel, I'm going to be doing all of Marvel. Everyone from the X-Men to the Avengers to the cosmic entities to the villains to the minor characters that you might see 12 times, as long as they have a certain amount. I don't want to have the cutoff kind of like what Mr. Goldsmith has, where the character has to show up 12 different times to make to get an episode. Or I might combine characters that have lesser appearances into one. But the point is, I plan on taking you all on a journey through the Marvel Universe, as well as sometimes I might dabble in the DC and other comics outside of Marvel. Stay tuned for that. I plan on dabbling a little bit in everything, but for the most part, it's going to be Marvel. But I will let you know when I get around to doing stuff outside of Marvel. You will know. So today's episode with Tyler, we're going to be talking about the Voyager, which is a Avengers hero. Honestly, I don't want to say my favorite Avenger, because she's not. She's cool. But she comes from some of my favorite Avengers stories. 2, to be exact. But before we get into all that, if you like this podcast, please go follow, leave a comment, subscribe wherever you're listening to this, on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or anywhere else. Please review. We love reviews. Reviews get us places. There'll be a link down in the description below to take you to the other podcast shows of the Neonic Void Productions. you'll be able to go to Spookocalypse, Voidonica, Tea of the Gods, all the other shows that everyone else is on. So if you want to hear more Tyler, Spookocalypse or Voidonica, it's where he resides. So, Tyler.
Yes.
Enough of the housekeeping. Do you have a history with comics at all? Marvel or otherwise?
Let me put it this way.
If you don't, it's fine. But
I have a history with comic strips.
oh, comic strips? Like what kind? Who?
So I grew up with Calvin and Hobbes, Hagar the Horrible, Baby Blues, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then when I try to share my enthusiasm with everyone else, it's like, we grew up with comic books and graphic novels. So, like, you don't have to show off. They're the same format.
They are. You're right. Hey, nothing's wrong with comic strips. Comic strips have a place.
But I did get into a graphic novel special topics class that our college was offering at the time.
Really?
And that introduced me to Persepolis and Mouse and Funhouse.
Oh.
Are you familiar with those?
No, I am most certainly not.
They're more like autobiographies. Funhouse was written by Alison Bechdel, which she's the one who made the Bechdel test.
Oh.
And it's basically her story of growing up and finding out her being lesbian and that her dad was also possibly gay. But it goes all over the place, so it's not linear. It's just like, I think in the beginning it shows like, here's her dad getting hit by a truck, and then it's like, okay, let's jump around to childhood, and then adolescence, adulthood, back to childhood, see where all this stuff connects. Persepolis is another autobiography, but it takes place in, I believe it takes place in Iran. Like, it starts in 1979, and then the Islamic regime happens in 1980s, and then it explains how the author, Marjane Satrapi, I believe her name is pronounced, it manages to escape from Iran. Or actually, like, she gets to live in France for a while and then comes back home briefly and then ends up going back to France to live the life she always wanted. And then Mouse is the telling of Art Spiegelman's father, who was a survivor of one of the Holocaust concentration camps. Mm-hmm. And all the characters are portrayed as like, the Jews are the mice, and the Polish are pigs, and the Nazis are cats. They're all interesting stories. Like, don't let it be frightening, like, ooh, Holocaust. Like, no, it's interesting. Please give it a read. All of them, give them a read. And then it just expanded from there. That's where I found The Sandman, which is one of my favorite graphic novels, Fables, and actually got into Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, okay, that's another good one. They're probably making an anime series based off the more closely related to the graphic novel with the original cast all coming back. You didn't know.
Ooh, neat. I am looking at my shelf and I'm like, there's one called Mortifera, which I only have one issue. I don't know if there's more, but that one I mentioned in a Spookocalypse episode briefly. And then I have Akira, which is more of a manga, but
hey, it still counts.
But it is graphic, and it's a bit of a novel, and I think it's just the first part of Akira. I don't know if it's the full thing.
I mean, hey, manga still counts. Like manga, manga's in the graphic novel world, or it's a totally different thing. It's Eastern comics.
Ooh,
which I will be doing some manga stuff as well, so now on that.
I just noticed I have a copy of The Invention of Hugo Cabret, which is a thick book, but it's a fast read. And From Hell.
That one sounds familiar.
From Hell? I think it's by Frank Miller. It's about, like, this is basically one author's theory of who Jack the Ripper is.
Ooh.
And then they explain at the end that, like, yeah, I'm just like a bunch of other people who have my own theories. I think it was this certain doctor who was affiliated with a noble house. And then other people have their other theories, and we have no idea, but we're having fun with this.
Fun fact that you mentioned Frank Miller, because I was like, is this the same Frank Miller? Look it up. Yeah, it is, because Frank Miller... Sin City, Daredevil, Batman, 300, Elektra, Wolverine. had to make sure. I was like, is this the same Frank Miller? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. That's cool. So you do have a knowledge of the comic world, graphic novel, manga, otherwise.
True. Just not that much about Marvel. I think the only introduction I've gotten to Marvel is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like a lot of people.
Of course. It's how it starts for the modern day fans. Now, for the listeners, I'll go over kind of my background with comics and stuff of comics, graphic novels, manga, all that shit. Now, I have an obsession with the comics, especially Marvel, because Marvel's my shit. It's my bread and butter. I have I'm looking at my boxes. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12 boxes in my room. And I don't think that's all of them. I think I have a few still in the storage unit. So I have at least 12 boxes full of Marvel, mostly Marvel comics. There's some Harley Quinn in there somewhere, some DC stuff. But for the most part, it's Marvel. Been collecting comics since 2015? Secret Wars is when I jumped in. When they were rebooting the whole universe, the big reset button. Before that, I've been to Marvel forever. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, the original Spider-Man films, the X-Men films, the X-Men cartoon. So it was the X-Men cartoon and the Spider-Man cartoon that did it for me back in the 90s. That stuff really did set me in motion to be the Marvel nerd I am today. Started reading manga in about middle school, because if you don't know, your boy got a learning disability called dyslexia, and one of the things that my librarian at my middle school got me doing was reading stuff from the visual arts, comic books, manga. That's how I got into manga, was from my librarian back in middle school. And that surprisingly helps for whatever ungodly reason. People with dyslexia, if you don't know, the visual, well, at least for me, the visual aspect of it, and reading the words, I can comprehend it a whole lot better than just reading a normal book. Because reading a normal book is a pain in the ass. Like, I can look, like, I've gotten better at it. But when I was younger, I could look at a book, read one page, and someone was like, okay, what was that page about? And I couldn't tell you. Because there was a disconnect between me reading something to myself and then my brain storing that, comprehending it. So my mind was wired differently. But for whatever reason, manga, comics, graphic novels, the images, the drawings helped my mind comprehend what was going on by giving it a visual. So if you know somebody that's dyslexic and they have problems reading, or if you know a child, give them a comic book or a graphic novel or a manga that's suitable to whatever age they may be. That will help. So
I may have a slightly similar experience. Not so much like I couldn't read it. I was reading a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like attention-wise. Like, I'm having a hard time reading this. And it just made more sense where it's like, why would you write it to where it says, and then Timothy said, Frank, get the hose. This fire is getting a little out of hand. And then Frank replies, I'm on it, and stuff like that. And then when he's like, here's a picture, and then here's the word bubble of the people who are actually doing the action. Like,
right.
Oh, this feels faster.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not wailing on books here, because I've been trying to get myself into reading actual like novels within the last year or so, and it's going, you know. I'm trying to force myself to do it because I'm like, hey, there's some good horror novels out there, so I've been trying to do that. Like, I'm in the process of trying to get myself to sit down and read Stephen King's Carrie for the book watchers, so that's a adventure on my part. But nonetheless, I decided to do this podcast for one, my knowledge of comic books. I spent many years diving into knowledge on comic book characters from the Marvel verse mostly. I have a lot of useless information about Marvel comic book characters. And then when I got into the actual comics, it got worse. And so it's like, cool, there's a new character coming into the MCU. Give me like 20 minutes. I don't know everything about them. And I'm usually the person, at least in my family, my mom, some of my friends, like, who's this character? And I'm like, I got you. And I usually have the said knowledge needed for that. Beginning in the comics, it's just getting worse. So I have an abundance of knowledge. I'm like, I don't want to do a Marvel podcast, a comic book podcast. I need to get all this information out. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to do this podcast. That and to get me to read more comic books I have not read. Like, I may have a lot of knowledge of Marvel comics, but I have not read everything. I have a list of stuff I want to read about, especially certain characters. Like, I at some point want to do a Doctor Strange episode, and like Jean Grey and what's some other big heroes I want to do? Scarlet Witch. Some of the more heavy characters going back to like the 60s. Now I want to read all their publication history from the 60s to today. Like, in a couple episodes, we're going to be doing Iron Man. And that's a lot of reading, and I want to do it all because I feel like I owe that to myself. So this podcast is going to be a bit of a adventure for me, and that's the point, as well as just getting to know people in the fandom as well. So there'll be guests. Hopefully there'll be guests from Marvel, from the Marvel fan base, from Twitter and other places. And one day, Connor Goldsmith, if you're listening, message me, start talking. I want you on the podcast. That's fine. That's fine if you don't want a message right now. A couple episodes, hit me up.
He will send people to kidnap you.
No, don't say that. I want him to be on the pod, not scare him away.
Okay.
I don't want to do that. No. But no, it'd be cool to have him. It'd be cool to even have some of the writers of, like, I swear, for one, if I would ever have Al Ewing on the pod, I would scream. And Al Ewing is one of the writers for the 2 stories we're going to talk about today. I love his work. Love him. Anyway. So, backstory, guest introduction. Now, from this point, we would normally get into the character. But I feel like, since the name of the podcast is called House of Ideas, it's Haus, not House. I thought I'd actually talk about the House of Ideas. So the House of Ideas is a place in the Marvel universe. I'm not going to get into it too much because one of the stories we talk about today does have the House of Ideas in it. So, at its base level, the House of Ideas is the core of all reality and the birthplace of all that was, all that is, and all that yet may be. There's so much background noise right now, and I'm going to scream at my roommates. Don't stop. I hope it's not catching.
I don't know if it is because I can't hear anything.
Okay, cool. If it isn't, great, because I'll just edit this part out. Because I'm going to edit the shit out of this. So anyway, the House of Ideas, again, is the core of all reality and the birthplace of all that was, all that is, and all that yet may be. It's the dwelling space of the one above all. And the one above all, you're like, who's that God? Is basically a God. Now, there will be an episode on the one above all on this podcast at some point in the future. But that's not today. The ultimate creator, so the one above all is the ultimate creator of everything. And within this place, infinity stories are born. Ideas can take physical shape. So the House of Ideas, of course, has many entry points. One is located on Earth due to humanity being essential to the one above all's designs, and is manifested as a suburban residence in the Howlett Harbor, Long Island. So it looks like a residence, and the way the house looks, as you will see on the image for the episode as well as the podcast, it looks like a house that you would find in this suburban area in Long Island. The house's true location is in the mystery outside of the multiverse. Now, to get into that without confusing anybody, because I swear I'm going to do a whole layout of all the multiverse and the outer realms and stuff of the Marvel Universe, because shit gets weird. So the mystery, or the outer realms, so this is known as the outside. Are you still with me, Tyler, or are you confused?
Well, when you said layout, I was thinking like how many bathrooms it has, or
No.
bedrooms.
No, what?
Oh, you said layout, and I was like a physical layout,
yeah.
or do you mean something else entirely?
Like the layout. Are you talking about when I was talking about the layout of what the house looks like?
Yeah, and I remember with the story I read, it looked kind of like an old Victorian home.
Yeah. It looks like it manifests as a suburban residence, and like it. I guess they took the design of a house that is in this suburban area of Long Island, and they used that as the house's appearance for the House of Ideas. Now, the house's location is outside the multiverse, or in the mystery. So the outside the multiverse. Okay. So this is a space. Even while ignoring the different dimensions that make up each universe, there are many layers to the multiverse. Starting within a single universe, going beyond will enter the superflow, the space between universes. Going beyond further will enter the neutral zone, the furthest point of the multiverse, where matter and antimatter can coexist. While locations like the neutral zone are outside of all universes, they are still contained within the multiverse. The outside refers to the regions completely outside the multiverse and beyond eternity's influence. Who is Eternity? There'll be an episode on him in the future, one of the many cosmic entities of the Marvel Universe. So to go further, some of the areas out in this realm, there's a place called the Far Shore, which shows up in these two stories, both these stories. The Far Shore, there is no space, time, or death. After the Shaper of Worlds died and fell into oblivion, he saw what lie beyond in the Far Shore. Nothing dies, everything lives. Anything beyond the Far Shore is called the Mystery. It includes the Beyond, the White Hot Room, which is mostly connected to like the Phoenix and Jean and the X-Men world. So you'll hear a lot about the White Hot Room in there. The Land of Couldn't Be, Shouldn't Be, and then the House of Ideas, and many more. Because the mystery is infinite. Are you still with me, Tyler?
I think I process half of what is spoken just in most conversations, but I do recognize the Far Shore.
So yeah, this is a place, the House of Ideas. This is a place located in another place that's outside the multiverse. So this is like outside of the barriers of the multiverse. Kind of break it down a little bit. So don't worry about it. You don't have to necessarily worry about it, ladies and gentlemen and listeners. But I just wanted to go into the House of Ideas, and that is one of the things to touch up on. Now, of course, throughout stories, I will, and whatever guest I have at the time, will be going more in detail on the outside and the different parts of the mystery and the Far Shore, which we'll do in this episode, and all that fun stuff. Again, I expect everyone to know this stuff, because this is the part of the Marvel world that gets people confused. I love it. I live. But I understand the confusion with people when they hear about the outside and all this outside the multiverse and the realm of existence and all that stuff. So, but that's the House of Ideas in a nutshell. Now, the House of Ideas has appeared in 5 appearances of the House of Ideas. Now they did show the House of Ideas, or a place called that, in the Loki series, but the House of Ideas that Loki went to, books on that had 2 of Eternity's children, now and then. And it turns out it wasn't the House of Ideas at all. It was a trap. It was a twab. Don't worry about it. So, okay. That's the House of Ideas. Now on to the Voyager. Where do we begin with the... Okay, you know what? Tyler. Overall, did you like the Voyager as a character through the 2 stories that you've read? Of their appearances. Of her appearances.
Yes.
What are your opinions on the Voyager to start things off?
Favorable.
Favorable? Got it. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was certainly duped on the origin story.
Oh, so was I. For those of you who
Oh,
don't...
how convenient of them to print the original cover so I wouldn't have to go looking for it myself.
No,
It's like,
right?
yeah, you don't have to go looking for it yourself.
I'm like, that seems suspicious. And then our backstory, I'm like, that kind of makes sense. So those of you who don't know, before we actually get into the Avengers No Surrender, the backstory that the Voyager gives, her name is Valerie Victor. She's a teleporter. Her backstory was during a battle with the Avengers against the the Squadron Sinister, as part of a contest between Kang and the Grand Master. So Valerie was picked against Victory, the electromagnetic man in Italy, and Voyagers put up a portal and reacted with Victor's powers, and it exploded. Victor was outright killed instantly from the explosion, but Voyager was removed from existence and even memory. So from there, Voyager, or Valerie, spent roughly a decade in a dreamlike state in which she would observe the adventures of the Avengers. When the Grand Master stole the Earth and its moon to another region of space for their game in No Surrender, which we'll be getting into, it jolted Voyager back into existence. And she came back to Earth and gathered the Avengers, as it happens in No Surrender. But that is her story, is that she got yanked out of existence and memory and floating somewhere in between. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to introduce a new Avenger. She was there the whole time. We just never remembered her. And I'm like, that's kind of suspicious, but okay. I like it. It's cool. Were you suspicious?
Only the part where it's like, oh, she's one of the original founding Avengers. I'm like, then why was she left out?
Well, granted, she was taken out of memory, so no one remembered her, including the viewer, the reader. So
I was also thinking, like, writer-wise, like, why would they only bring her up now as opposed to earlier?
Well, I thought, for me, Al Ewing and who are the writers? Mark Waid, Al Ewing, and Jim Zod. I thought those 3, like, oh, they wanted to come up with a new Avenger, and came up with this cool little plot where she was there in the beginning, but she got wiped out of existence and memory. So everyone forgot her, even the reader and the writers. And I'm like, that's an interesting idea. Let's see where it goes. And I was just like, something doesn't seem right. Mr. Ewing, Mr. Zed, Mr. Wait, what's going on? What? Confusion. This is the first, I would say this is probably the first Avengers story I got into reading. So this was a journey. I was like, I don't remember this Avenger. Hello? So, where do we begin on Avengers No Surrender?
Probably the very start, because it seems like nothing's happening, and then suddenly the Earth just disappears.
Oh yeah, someone
Like
just
Miss
took the
Marvel's
Earth and
in
yanked it.
space, and she's like, guys, the Earth is gone. And the people who are on Earth, they're like, there's disasters going on, and they don't have no idea what's happening. And then by the end of the first issue of that story, Voyager shows up, and it turns out she called everybody, including Lightning, who was just playing a game of poker with some guys, and then none of them recognized him, but
Nope.
this one guy's like, what the hell y'all doing? That's Lightning. And it's like, he's a goddamn superhero. I was like, oh. He's like, shoot, I guess I'm that recognizable. Well, time to skedaddle. Like, I think he zaps them, and then they get arrested, and then he gets the call to be an Avenger, and he's like, I'm not really an Avenger. Either he never was, or he was one, and then he kind of got kicked out. I don't remember his entire story, but that first little sequence that's like, here's ordinary things happening, and it's like, wait, I'm getting called. It must be really bad if they're calling me in.
Yeah.
I
mean, the sky's red.
True. They're calling all sorts of characters that I'd never even heard of, like Squirrel Girl.
You never heard of Squirrel Girl?
At first, I thought it was like a joke name, but it was like, no, she's real.
She's real. She beat Galactus. And Thanos.
I'm gonna have to fucking read that story.
Well, she beat them in a non-conventional way. Well, with Galactus. She became friends with Galactus. Okay? Still, don't sleep on Squirrel Girl. Don't sleep on her. She's cool.
I wasn't really trying to knock her out. She's like, there's a character that really has this name? I was like, well, okay, everybody holds her in high regard, so I guess there's no reason to really knock her. Plus, I love her freckles.
I know, right? My favorite panel, though, is Captain Marvel, or as you put it, Miss Marvel. She was Miss Marvel, but she's Captain Marvel now. Captain Marvel, her face of like, guys, and they're like, what? The Earth is gone.
How they drew her face.
And she's like, the fuck? Hello? Where'd it go? And she's just baffled, which I get why they excluded her from this event, because if she was on Earth and she was there, she would have owned everybody. Let's be real.
Yeah, and a lot of people are put into stasis. Like, they're covered in a blue aura, and they cannot move at all.
They're frozen, yeah.
Like,
which I'm just like,
Vision
damn.
is one of the ones that are frozen, and they're like, and they mentioned like it must be only costume heroes. I'm like, but you, Miss, are wearing a costume. I think this was one of the Wasps. Like, you're wearing a costume. You're not frozen, and I'm not sure. I know there's Janet and there's Nadia, but I don't know what their relationship is. Are they family? Like, are they sisters, or is it mother or daughter?
Okay. So you got Janet Van Dyne, which is the original Wasp, and then Nadia. Oh god, I don't want to say something wrong, so let me look this. One quick little Google search. Let me look this up right quick. So Nadia Van Dyne, she is. She's Hank. She's Hank's daughter. And a woman known as Maria Pym is her mother. I don't know much about Maria Pym, but I guess Hank had another wife and had a child with her, and that's where Nadia comes from. Now, Janet is was her stepmother, because I don't think Janet and Hank are currently a thing. So, but yeah, she's a daughter of Hank. A daughter of Hank and his first wife. But yeah, she also becomes a Wasp too, so. Yeah, she's the Wasp currently in the story, while I think Janet's in stasis currently at the start of the story.
I think so. I remember like Nadia and Beast are in the hospital taking care of their butler Jarvis, because
Jarvis, yeah.
I think he saved someone and is collapsed into rubble. And then when he's in the hospital, they find that his body is somewhat attacking him.
Yes.
And then they find an alien parasite attached to his brain.
Yeah, so he's
At a
kind of
microscopic
just
level.
out. Yeah. So basically he's out for the duration of this event for the most part. Because he knows stuff.
And then meanwhile we have, I think her name is Tony Ho, the Iron Patriot.
Mm-hmm.
Basically doing sciencey things.
Yes, the Iron Patriot. We
Mainly comms. It's like, our comms is down now where we can't do anything.
We're useless.
And then I think most of them, like, they do bit of the first field work, like, okay, let's figure out what's happening, and then they all convene at the manor, at the Avengers mansion, after Voyager shows up.
Yeah, Voyager just shows up and starts gathering everybody, and they're like, "Who are you?"
And then there's conflict of leadership, where, like, Falcon's like, okay, you're one of the original leaders, so maybe I should have you do the leading, and then Voyager's like, no, you keep leading. And then there's Rogue and Quicksilver who keep bickering, and no one freaking likes Quicksilver in this one. They're just like, shut up.
Oh, Quicksilver is people look at him as a problem character because there are different groups throughout this Avengers story. There's the Avengers, the Unity Squad, or the Uncanny Avengers and the Unity Squad. There's the actual Avengers. There is the what else? There is the there's another group.
Is it
West Coast Avengers?
Oh, I was about to say, like, is it Avengers Earth, or is that just referring to the ones that are on Earth when it's happening?
It's the Great Lake Avengers, which is like what lightning's from. Actually, let me pull up my book. Let me pull up the book. So they'll actually label out each group, and then I can give a proper. Oh no! Come on now. Do. There we go. Go back to the very beginning.
Should we mention every character who shows up?
We can. So the different groups we have throughout the story. There is the Avengers, which has Falcon, Jane Foster's Thor, Hercules, Vision, the Wasp. Nadia Van Dyne's the Wasp, and then of course Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Then you got the Unity Squad, which is a group that consists of mutants as well as other heroes, led by Rogue, and has Rogue, Beast, Human Torch, Johnny Storm's Human Torch, Scarlet Witch, Dr. Voodoo, Quicksilver, Wonder Man, Wasp, the J.F. Van Dyne's Wasp, and then how do you even say her name?
Synapse?
Synapse, there you go. I was like, I know that name, Synapse. Yeah. So those are the Unity Squad. And you got the U.S. Avengers, which is Citizen V, Cannonball, Squirrel Girl, Red Hulk, Iron Patriot, and don't tell me. I can't even. I'm trying to remember how to pronounce the name. Enigma. I don't know why my brain was
Enigma.
I don't know why my brain was having a brain fart with that name, Enigma. Then outside of the U.S. Avengers, you have the Occupy Avengers, which is Hawkeye and Red Wolf. And then, of course, the unaffiliated Captain America, Captain Marvel shows up there because she's like, where the fuck is the moon? Where the fuck's the Earth and the moon? Black Panther, Lightning, and, of course, Jarvis. So those are mostly the groups that show up in the story. So at this point, that's when we find out about Voyager's backstory and that she was Avenger all along, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're one of the original ones. I remember you. What's up, girl?" Acting like she's been there the whole time, or that all these memories are coming flooding back, that she remembers, that everyone remembers her and stuff. And I'm like, that seems a bit fishy, but okay, that's fine, I guess. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Well, let me go.
And there's also Hercules that shows up.
Oh yeah, Hercules. Hercules.
And Dr. Voodoo. I don't know if we mentioned him.
Yeah, I did. He's in the Unity squad with the Scarlet Witch. He's one of the few magic users. But yes, when they realize that it's Voyager, they actually have, I find it real cool that they actually inputted her into all the original comics. So they show scenes of all the original Avengers, like the old gold suit Iron Man and like the Hulk and Ant-Man the Wasp, and she's right there at the very end next to Thor, and they show another one in the classic Avengers issue number 16 with Captain America, her, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Hawkeye. And then it shows, and I love this one because the very bottom, the editorial is just funny. It's like, who can't forget Avengers 58? And it shows the Vision, his voice so unspeakably cold. Sure, his voice, but if you saw his eyes right now, Avenger, you'd know even an android can cry. Said by the Voyager to Iron Man. And I'm like, what is this? I don't remember her being here, but I love how they just redrew everything. It's so great. They really try to sell it.
And how they kind of write things, which I suppose you have to explain, is that you have to say your powers so that people know that you have the power.
Yeah. She has the power of teleportation.
I will control them with my mind flaying abilities, like it's spoken by Menticle.
Yeah.
Which is like, no one talks like that, but then you kind of need them to talk like that so you know what they're doing.
Exactly. It's comic book lingo. So then Tom also brings up, this is where the origin story comes in, about them going against Kang, and then Victory, the electromagnetic man, and then their powers interacted, and he got obliterated, and she got shoved through into outside existence and memory, and then she got warped back in when the moon and the moon and the earth were taken away. So she's here to, the world still needs us, but you more than me. Her lingo, her writing, someone really said, we need to make her seem like she's an Avenger. And they're really selling it. Like, she's really selling it. I'll give it to the writers. They're really making it trying to really sell it to us that she is an original Avenger. And that she's doing the whole speech and everything. And then, of course, from there, you meet, or you kind of try to figure out what they're going to do from there. Try to figure out a plan.
And then they get interrupted by, was it the Black Order that shows up?
Yes, the Black Order. So the Black Order comes crashing down upon the Earth in Egypt. And the Black Order consists of Corvus Clave, Supergiant, Black Dwarf, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, Black Swan, and then the opposing group that comes down with them in Egypt initially was the oh god, how do you say her name?
The Lethal Legion.
The Lethal Legion. But the Lethal Legion consists of Captain Glory, which I love him, Drawl, the gladiator from Beyond the Stars, Fernie, the other, Menticle, the all-new Metal Master, and the Blood Brothers. Now, some of these characters have appeared in older comics, but like I think the Blood Brothers have, and I think the Metal Master and maybe Menticle have. But Captain Glory, I need to see more of him. His self-righteous ass, I love him. so freaking stupid. And of course, from there, these two groups fight it out. And you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And they're kind of just like fighting each other, almost like they're in a contest of some kind. You're getting the vibe. And then they kind of go off their different ways. And Rogue
stops the fight, and it's like, you're not supposed to fight each other yet.
And then they go about the different ways, and then we jump back to the mansion that they're at, where the Avengers are at, and they're arguing amongst themselves on what should be done, how should this be handled, and let's see. So they decide to pair up into two different groups. And I think it's Sis and V that suggests we should go solo. It'd be able to become more ground that way. And of course, he butts heads with Rogue because Rogue's like, no, Falcon's right. We should go in groups. So there's a lot of back and forth on what should be done what should be done throughout all this. And then, of course, as Tyler stated, they are interrupted by Corvus Clave and Proxima Midnight, the couple. They're married. They're in love, by the way. You didn't know.
Oh, a couple that slays together stays together.
Period. Love that. They're a couple, so they're in love. And then from there, I'll let you take care of that, Tyler.
Oh, yeah, they do a brief announcement like, we're here to eliminate some obstacles.
Yeah.
And then they realize, everyone realized, I think one of them realizes, oh, shoot, they're right above the mansion, and they're about to explode it.
Yeah, about to nuke that
shit.
shit.
In space. But I believe Voyager teleports everyone out in time.
Oh, yeah. Last minute, too. And she's like, she did all of that work, and she's just like, damn, I need a break, y'all. I need a 5. Give me a 5. Give me a 5-minute break, because that was a lot.
Yeah, she has to take a break. And also, Corvus and Proxima think that they're gone because they don't read any signs of their existence.
Yeah.
And then, is this where we cut to the 2? Or is that not yet?
The 2?
The people who are orchestrating this entire thing.
No, not yet. So from there, Voyager takes them to another Avengers headquarters, a very old one.
The auxiliary headquarters?
Yes. One that has not been used in quite some time. So she takes them there, and I'm like, how does she know about that? Okay. This was where I was like, okay, maybe she was actually an Avenger that we just didn't know about. That's fine. That's cool. She took them there, and she's like, you'll be fine here. And Voyager's like, I need a minute. That was a lot. And Quicksilver tries to butt in. Quicksilver doing Quicksilver. No one's really liking him. They're arguing again. They're trying to figure out what...
No one asked you Pietro or Pietro, however you say his first name. Petro.
And they're just trying to figure out what to do now, because they're kind of just like, well, we're fucked.
They're like, the world's on fire, we need to act now. I was like, no, we need to strategize, because if we rush in, we're just going to stumble over ourselves. We need a plan.
As some of the characters said, I'm trying to say, I think the Voyager says, we are the Avengers. We do not play defense. But they're like, well, we need to do something. So Quicksilver kind of, I guess, ran off, because Quicksilver, we're miles. Oh, no, sorry. They're arguing. So Falcon tells Quicksilver, we're miles away now. Look at Voyager. She clearly needs the recharge. So unless you plan on running us back to Manhattan one by one, I'm like, damn, quick, give Pietro a break. Damn. But there's a lot of turmoil between Pietro and Rogue, especially. And that, I think all that's happened before No Surrender. So all that's coming to a head now. So they're still trying to figure out what the hell to do. And then we jump to the people orchestrating this.
Yes. Because I think they're choosing a pyramid, or in the comic, I think they're called pyramids.
Yeah.
It's like one of them chooses earth and another chooses fire. And who is the first one we identify?
We see the Grand Master, which the Grand Master is an elder. There'll be an episode on him in the future as well. I'll plan on hitting everybody. So the elders of the universe will be on that list. So we meet the Grand Master first, and he's looking stunning, as usual. Like he's got this game in the bag, because that's what he does. He loves playing games. And the person that he's going against is a new character. He is known as the Challenger. Well, actually, we don't actually see him yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. Oops.
So, quick, ignorant question about the Grandmaster. Is that the same Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I tried to imagine him with
he's
Jeff
playing.
Goldblum's voice, and it just doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't. Because the Grandmaster in the comics is different than the Grandmaster in the MCU. Granted, I would love to see the Grandmaster doing this type of shit that the Grandmaster does in the comics. Because that's one thing that I'm like, I like Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster, but I'm like, is he an elder of the universe?
I do too. They just feel like two different characters. Like the Jeff Goldblum version is sort of like, I'm here for the entertainment, and then this one is like, I'm here for the competition.
I'm here to fucking win at all costs. Because the Grandmaster wins at all costs. He does not lose. He refuses to lose. That's his whole shtick. So he chooses Earth, and his opponent chooses Fire. Then we jump back to Midtown Manhattan, where people are coming into the hospital, and we join Nadia and Beast as they're taking care of Jarvis. And then we jump back to the Avengers HQ, where we see Iron Lad, and she's the computer. She's the chair, the person that sits in the chair looking at the computers. And they get an alarm about 2 lightning strikes coming down upon the Earth. One in Rome and one in
Peru.
So they're like, well, shit.
Like as you're saying, I'm like, oh, now I'm actually remembering the story that I read yesterday and today.
Right.
It's all coming together.
So now they're going to so then they finally decide to split up into 2 teams. One team goes to Rome and one team goes to Peru. So you got the team that's going to Rome. The team that's going to Peru will be led by Falcon. And he is going to be joined by the Hulk, Johnny Storm's Human Torch, and the Red Hulk, Wonder Man, and Cypress. And then, of course, the one going to Rome is led by Rogue. And it'll be Rogue, Hercules, Lightning, Cannonball, and Jane Foster's Thor. And then Quicksilver wants to join.
Quicksilver assumes, but she's like, no, you stay here.
Oh, yeah, he's like, Cannonball, a heavy hitter? And I just love the interaction between these two, because Cannonball's like, Cannonball! And Cannonball's like, well, I am. And
I'm nigh invulnerable. And I remember I get this feeling. He's like, don't fucking say it.
Don't say it. Don't you dare say it. I knew when you were in short pants. And he snaps at Rogue, and he's like, and you're leaving me behind to do what? Make coffee at the speed of sound? And Rogue then says, it's pretty simple, Pietro. I with an accent, I love how they put the I need people I can count on out there. And that ain't you, sugar. And that just pisses him off. That means then Voyager does her job in teleporting them. Pietro's pissed because he's not being used, and Rogue does not count on him, obviously. So from there, she takes the first group, Rogue's group, to Rome, and be ready for anything, as the Voyager says. And then they come into a fight with the Lethal Legion in Rome. So they're battling at the Colosseum. And then from the Lethal Legion, Voyager takes Falcon's group to Peru. Yeah, Peru. And that's where they're going to battle. I guess some of the groups are split up. Some of the Lethal Legion, Black Order are in Rome, while the others are in Peru. So they're coming into like a hot battle, straight up war zone between these two groups. I don't know about you, Tyler, but the artwork in this is phenomenal.
I kind of wasn't paying that much attention to the art, but I do appreciate how nice it looks.
I love the artwork so much, and I love. So this first issue. Sorry, this issue was number. Was this issue 3? Because issue 3 was written by. Was it issue 3? Proxima Midnight, Quicksilver, Voyager, Not Dead, Falcon. I think this issue was issue 3, 677. So this issue was done by Mark Waid, and the art was done by Pepe Lorez, which I love his work and anything he's a part of. Pepe is an amazing comic book artist, and I just love how he draws the heroes. Their facial expressions, the poses he puts them in, it's just so good. So good. But you get a whole splash page of when they enter Rome and seeing the battle and the Colosseum being destroyed. And then you get a nice page of just Peru, of the Lethal Legion and the Black Order fighting. And they're like, God, this is a war zone. Okay, team, let's go. And then we jump back to the vault, or to the underground warehouse, bomb-proof vault, blah, blah. Which they're like, what's going on in there?
Yeah, Scarlet Witch is attempting to remove the stasis from Vision.
Yeah, with Dr. Voodoo's help.
And it works for a brief moment. Just when Quicksilver arrives in Rome to take out the enemy team.
Yes, because Quicksilver gets pissed. He gets impatient. He's like, I'm going to go. And Wanda's like, you better not. And then he zaps off. And then when he gets to Rome, the Scarlet Witch's like, I want to figure this shit out. So, like you were saying, he gets to Rome, takes one good smack at Manticore, and then he freezes as the Vision gets unfroze. And I'm just like,
the Blood Brothers take an opportunity to smack him down.
Yes, they beat the shit out of him. Voyager ain't doing that, ain't transporting that. They really just nail into his ass. So from there, Voyager is still with the team in Peru. And she's with the Red Hulk, Falcon, and the rest of them as they devise a plan on how to handle the situation. Johnny gets impatient. And he's like, flame on! And he flies off into battle. Or into the battle as then we jump back to Rome where Quicksilver's ass got whooped. Damn.
How long is the episode meant to go on? Because I think we've already had an hour.
We already had an hour?
And I don't know if we'll be able to cover everything if we're going to go over every detail.
Fair, because my goal is around 2 hours for at least this episode, and some of the other ones will be longer, but we can kind of jump around a little bit and do more of the Voyager parts. So from there, the teams are dealing with their mess of the Lethal Legion and the Black Order. Voyager isn't really seen much in this part of the story until, let me kind of jump around a little bit. So Voyager from Peru goes to Rome, and that's where she finds Rogue and Quicksilver. The Pietro got frozen. And then, of course, Voyager takes Pietro. She's like, I can't come back for you. But I can't come back. And they're like, well, we'll deal with it. So they leave them. She leaves them, and she goes back to Scarlet Witch and Dr. Voodoo as they have vision. And they realize, Scarlet Witch realizes what happened, and it reverses where Vision, because it's Scarlet Witch's magic, as long as she focuses on the Vision, he's able to unfreeze while Pietro's down. So when Voyager brings back Pietro, she sees, oh shit, she gets distracted and drops it, and then Vision freezes back up again, and Quicksilver unfreezes again. And then from there, the fight continues. The Avengers get 1 point. No,
I think either someone from the Lethal Legion. I think that someone from the Lethal Legion gets a point.
I think it's one of the Blood Brothers. So yeah, Lethal Legion gets 1 point in the competition for the opponent, and then the other one, Human Torch gets the other, and that's a big shocker because he explodes, or you think he explodes.
They disintegrate. Yeah, they both disintegrate, and it's like, oh no, they're gone. And then the Lethal Legion, Black Order, surprised, are like, huh, the obstacles got a point. That's unexpected.
Right? And they're like, oh no, who is this? And then we jump back
to... The Avengers are just like, wait, is this a game? What are they talking about?
Right? Because they actually stop and listen to what Lethal Legion and the Black Order are talking about, and there's like a whole competition. And then we jump to the Grandmaster and the opponent. And you find out the opponent's name is Challenger. And they are the Challenger is kind of pissed that an Earthling took the point. And then we get this whole backstory about... Is it the backstory? Nope, we have not gotten to the backstory yet. That's not really that important, I guess. We'll get to it when we get to it. So... Torch is gone. So they think. Point goes to the humans or the Avengers. I love this panel right here because it shows the Captain Glory, and he's saluting. He's like, well fought. And I was like, really? Captain Glory's ridiculous. Because if he loses, he's perfectly fine with it. He's like, well fought. You've won. And he salutes as him and his team venture away. And of course, the same with the Black Order. And then there's this whole part of Lightning feeling heartbroken that they asked to break the news to Rogue about the Human Torch, which we'll go more into detail with on the Human Torch episode about the Human Torch's relationship with Rogue, because apparently they're very close. And then the next time we see the Voyager, there's more stuff with the Grandmaster and the Challenger, which I find interesting. Because then we see the actually that was Black Dwarf that got it. So it's Black Dwarf and the Human Torch are like in these little crystals. They're like they're chess pieces that are out of the game currently. That is the whole point. And you find out that the Grandmaster chose this planet on purpose. It's the Avengers world. And they talk about the Phoenix, Thanos, Galactus. And as he puts it, this is the ultimate contest for the ultimate stakes. It requires the ultimate playing field. Which I find interesting interactions between the Grandmaster and the Challenger. And before I get back to Tyler, you do find out one little fun fact, that the Grandmaster stole the Challenger's name. The Challenger was once known as the Grandmaster, but the current Grandmaster won a game against him and took his name.
Now that we've let that sink in, Devin?
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hi.
Okay, I was like, it just went silent for a bit, and I was about to transition to the next part, but then...
Yeah, I was going to give it back. I was going to give it back to you.
Oh, Philly, okay.
Because when I zeroed more on the Voyager stuff, because you also get a little bit of backstory on the Elders, which each one will have their own episode, because I love to do that. So the next time you see the Voyager will be in the next issue, in issue part 6, where she'll be coming into back into Rome with Rogue and them. Take it away.
So now it is established that the stakes are whoever wins this competition gets to banish the other one from all reality.
Mm-hmm. Oh, between the two? Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe the Grandmaster's true name is Indui Gast.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the Challenger's name is. It's just the Challenger.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pick 2 new elements. The Challenger goes for air. I think it said air, yeah. And the Grandmaster takes water. Although he says in this case it means ice. And even though the Grandmaster's like, I seem to be at an advantage, the Challenger's like, I have someone in reserve.
Ooh. Wonder who that could be.
And the Grandmaster's like, well, I got tricks up my sleeve too, so... And so we realize, oh yes, Grandmaster and Challenger took this planet to use as a game board, which reminds me of that episode of Invader Zim with the Planet Jackers.
Yes.
Except I think they were like, I forget, did they take that planet? Did they take planet Earth just like to scrap it for parts or to sell it?
I don't remember. I do remember that they took it.
And it's like the idea of like, these guys are in like a ship that's maybe the size of your standard diesel truck, but their cargo is a fucking planet.
Right.
And they entrap the entire thing. Like, how did you... Whatever, go with it. And
So Voyager kind of joins in with the team when they go around and teleporting them to different spots as they take on the Lethal Legion.
oh yeah, she finds 2 more pyramids.
Yes.
One in New Mexico and one in the Antarctic.
Yeah, so they take teams there to fight the others and to try to get the pyramids. As far as her next big part, that's when they figure out the game. It's when they talk about the game, and so the Voyager and Rogue have an interaction. After Rogue kills Corvus Clave with his own weapon, because fun fact, that's the only way to kill Corvus Clave is with his own sword, his own blade, spear. It's the only way to kill him. From there,
Proxima gets all sad.
yeah,
Her
because
husband
that's her
died,
lover.
throws her spear at Rogue.
Yeah. From there, she's like, and of course, Rogue's like, it really is a damn game. And that's when they're trying to get the other Pyranoid for lightning. And from there, I think it's the Lethal Legion that gets it.
Yeah, the Black Order pretty much doesn't score.
Yeah, they really don't. Except for the Black Dwarf gets the first one. So the Black Order does get 1. Then we jump back to the Avengers headquarters that they're sitting at. And that's where we come back to the Voyager. She has another moment. Her backstory, more of her backstory on how she got her powers. Do you remember it?
How she got her powers back?
No, how she got her powers as a child.
Oh, yeah. Her dad was working on something sciencey.
Arthur Victor.
Yes, Arthur Vector. And then the mom is arguing with him. And she's like, I want a divorce. But little Valerie here over here, she's like, no. And then she tries to intervene and then ends up coming into contact with science. And becomes able to teleport.
Yeah. And then her father takes
or
interest
so
in
she
her.
claims.
Yeah, so she claims. Dun dun dun. And throughout her journey as she grew up, she discovered others like her, the Avengers and stuff. And then that's when she's like, we found the Avengers.
Yes. And stay with them until she appeared to die in another of the Grandmaster's games.
Right.
Supposedly.
Versus Kang, right? That's a little sus. And then from there, we don't see Voyager for a while because the Avengers are taking out, fighting the Lethal Legion and the Black Order. Well, mostly Lethal Legion at this point. And that's where we meet Hawkeye and Red Wolf. Oh, and then the other chess piece comes in. So they're both saying the Challenger and the Grandmaster both have their little. Where they keep talking about how they have the little chess pieces, secret little pieces throughout this world. One of them is the Hulk. So the Hulk comes into the game. At the very end, he comes out of the ground, and then we get like a little cutscene of Red Wolf. Back to the Voyager, the Avengers fight. All that fun stuff. So by this point, Tyler, do you think that the Voyager says at this point when reading it, do you think she is who she says she is?
I'm still kind of convinced until the 5th Pyramoid shows up.
Oh yeah, the 5th one. Because the Lightning one gets taken by Red Wolf, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one was taken by
Lethal Legion. So Lethal Legion got the one in Antarctica, I think. And then Red Wolf got the one that was in New Mexico. And then we go back to the Challenger and the Grandmaster, and they have one more Pyranoid, the Decider. And then that's when we jump back to Jarvis. Jarvis is that's when Jarvis wakes up.
Oh yeah, this spills everything.
And he's like, it's all a lie! And Jarvis, he's flatlining, no! And he talks about how the Challenger has its own secret weapon. It's the Hulk, the immortal Hulk. And the Hulk at this point in the publication history, he's kind of a monster, like a literal monster. The Hulk is more taking the seat in this part of the Hulk's publication than Bruce. So Hulk's kind of a madman currently.
He's Sure.
Yes, pretty much. Oh!
We had a brief disconnect, but it reconnected.
Okay, that's all that matters. All that matters. Then we jump to so then we jump to the last pyramid with Beast and Nadia, because apparently it popped up in the hospital. There's a whole interaction thing with
and there's
that.
all these souls of dead people coming up, and doctors like, hey, I tried to save you, but like a recently deceased patient's like, this is freaky.
Yes. And then of course we get Beast in Jarvis's brain, and that's when Beast looks at all the memories and notices some bug, some parasite in Jarvis's brain. And he does kill it. Or Nadia kills it. And that's when Jarvis wakes up again. He's like, no, I can hear you the whole time, every word, and something is terribly wrong. Someone is... And then the pyramid pops up in the room, and Voyager, she comes in, Valor comes in, she's like, don't worry, Hank, let me handle this. And that's when Jarvis, when she takes on the pyramid, or tries to take the pyramid, she says, no, that's what I've been trying to tell you, trying to listen to me. And Jarvis goes on this whole rant. She's not an Avenger. She never was. And at this point, I was behooved. I mean, I wasn't surprised, but at the same time, like, damn, y'all almost fooled me. Whoever this woman is, she's not an Avenger. She never was. You're just like, ooh.
And then she conveniently shows up and like, I'll just be taking that, and just teleports to the auxiliary headquarters.
Yeah.
And hides in the vault.
Yeah, and then the Hulk wakes up, and basically from there we kind of just go through a history of the Hulk. This is not a Hulk episode. Come back, we'll do a Hulk episode. Then we jump back to the Challenger and the Grandmaster. Do you remember what happens next?
I had to take a sip of water, and I gotta jog my memory.
You're fine. They're in the game room. This is right when the Voyager took the last pyramid. Well, basically what happens is that the Voyager says, oops, your Hulk has no target to pursue. And the Challenger's like, why are you so smug?
Oh, yeah, and then Hulk he knows where it is, so he's running after it.
Oh, yeah, they know.
And everyone's trying to stop him, but they can't do anything.
And they're all trying to figure out who the fuck the Voyager is, too. And then we get a shot of the Voyager in the vault. And her skin goes blue.
That's right. She is the Grandmaster's daughter.
Yes, you soon do find out. She trapped herself in the vault with the pyramid, and you do find out, yeah, she's the Grandmaster's daughter.
Like, you were saying, like, what would the Grandmaster and Challenger do? And I'm like, I don't know. I think they were just watching the event because it doesn't really, like, the Challenger doesn't really do anything until after the Hulk reaches the pyramid.
Yeah, but they have a moment where they're talking about it, and once the Voyager takes the pyramid, the Grandmaster has a moment with the Challenger, and he's like, ha ha, your Hulk has nothing to pursue. Heh. And the Challenger's like, bet. And then, of course, the Hulk eventually does find out where she's at anyway. And then from here, you get a whole backstory on the Voyager and the Grandmaster being the Grandmaster's daughter. So apparently, there's this whole yellow thought bubbles that she talks about, thinks to herself about this to the reader. She's like, time to figure out my next move. It wasn't all a lie. I did my research. There really was a Professor Arthur Victor. I tied my story to his in case anyone thought to check my background. All part of the ruse I played to keep my identity secret. Everything depended on the Avengers being unaware of who my father really is. And it's the Grandmaster. Father always tells me that it's all about the honor of the game, that the Grandmaster never cheats. He forgets that I've been watching his every move ever since I was a girl. Together we traveled the cosmos. We gambled on supernovas as they raced toward extinction. We won entire planets so that I might end their wars to protect them from Galactus. To him, it was all about the contest. The winnings he used to leave to me. I don't know what's going to happen this time. This time he gave me the power of teleportation. Yes, but not just the ability to move through space. The power to move through memories themselves and settle after images there unquestioned. I was to be my father's secret advantage in this game. he needed me someplace where I could participate in the game while going unnoticed by his challenger. Someplace where to be lost in a sea of playing pieces while positioning them to help Father. I sure you're the one who's lost now. Father, surprise. I'm changing my position on the board. She's betraying her father. So you go through this whole history and how she's able to use her teleportation powers, transport into memories and leave an after image. And that's how everyone remembers her being an Avenger when she never was. I thought that was lit.
Yeah, she's like, I'm tired of being your plaything. You don't care about me. I'm gonna do my own thing. I want to be an Avenger for real.
Hell yeah, because she gets attached. And she's been doing this to save worlds and stuff. And that's when the Hulk comes in and tries to go through the vault. And I love Iron Hulk, fucking Red Hulk. He comes out, Iron Hulk. God bless America. So good. It writes itself. It writes its goddamn self.
But not even he can fucking take down big Hulk.
Oh no. Well, the Hulk right now is an unbeatable monster at this point. So she's still in the vault as Red Hulk is getting his ass fucking beat. Because Red Hulk has a time limit on his powers. Again, learn that more in the Red Hulk episode. And then Vision comes out and goes straight through the Hulk. And he's like, your rampage ends here. And then the Hulk takes out the Vision. He crushes his head open. That's not fun at all. And the Black Order comes in, and the Hulk busts through the vault. I do like this part with Wonder Man.
Yeah, he's like, I'm pacifist. Let me just talk it out.
Because I really like to talk, Hulk. I like to have conversation. He's like, let's talk this out, my guy.
He tries to appeal to Bruce Banner more, but then he realizes that doesn't work, and he's like, what would a Hulk want?
Right? Because Bruce Banner's not there. And then from there, basically the rest of the story is just Hulk getting through the vaults, Bruce Banner. It's a battle between him and Bruce Banner and the Hulk and Voyager. So the Hulk does get the last pyramid from the Voyager. And he Hulk turns back into Banner, finally. And that's when we get the Voyager. Voyager gets revealed to everybody that she is the Grandmaster's daughter. And the Challenger sees this. And he's like, you charlatan. I thought that was funny.
You
called him a charlatan.
cheated me.
You cheated me! And the Grandmaster's just like, you are overreacting. She was simply another tool. Wasn't cheating, even though in fact he was most definitely cheating. Would you call that cheating?
I suppose if it goes outside the boundaries of the rules, then yeah, but then there's also a thing called technicalities.
True.
So it's dubious at best.
True. But I do kind of agree with the Challenger. The Grandmaster kind of stacked the deck against him by placing the Voyager there.
Yeah,
and her name...
If you're giving yourself a major advantage, then it really isn't fair. Like, if you were to, like, we're going to play the game of Monopoly, and then you start off with twice as much money as your opponent does, then you have a clear advantage, and that's not really fair. But if you start off with the same amount of money as your opponent does, then that's more fair.
Yeah. And the Voyager's real name, if we didn't say it before, was Vani Gast?
I think so, like Vani Gast.
Vani Gast, yeah. So that is her actual real name, not Valerie Victor. So the Voyager's pissed and he attacks the Grandmaster. And then the memories of the Voyager fade when everyone sees her. And basically, she kind of just spills the beans and is like, hey, yeah, I'm the Grandmaster's daughter. And then from there, the Avengers, again, they unfreeze everybody, of course. Or everyone gets unfrozen. And basically, they kind of just, throughout this rest of the story, they try and beat the Challenger, because the Challenger does come to Earth. He's like, fuck this shit. This planet is a pestilence upon the universe. It is time for it to be purged. So he comes down wanting to destroy the planet.
Part where Hulk actually gets the pyramid and then he just smashes it?
Yes, he does smash it.
And that's like, oh, that's a foul. You lose a point. That means I win. And it's like, bullshit.
And that's where the whole interaction with the Challenger and the Grandmaster. He's like, that. And then, of course, then Voyager comes out in the open, and that's where he's just like, you cheated! And he's like,
I can offer you a rematch if you want. He's like, no.
Yeah. But it's like, at the same point, the Challenger, did he not cheat with the Hulk, too?
He said he had a piece in reserve, which I guess means like he withheld information from the Grandmaster, and I guess could be lying by omission, but if it's... I'm not really sure what to make of that part either.
It kind of Bo cheated in some ways. It didn't tell everybody all the information they needed. So, like, he had the Hulk and the Grandmaster had the Voyager. So did the Grandmaster really cheat? Okay, thinking on it. Okay, maybe he did. Maybe he did. Because the Hulk wasn't going to get the Avengers because the Hulk was dead, I think, at this point. He brought him back.
At least he turned back into Bruce Banner.
Finally, thank God, because he would have killed everybody and shit. So from here, everybody is like freaking out because the Challenger's on the Earth and fucking shit up, and the Hulk fights him. Hulk really does fight him and beat the shit out of him until the Challenger's like, "How dare you!" It slaps him and punches him off planet. Like,
yeah, he said flying.
And he's laughing. That part was kind of funny.
And I don't remember if this is the part where Quicksilver notices those blue beacons that are causing everyone to be in stasis, or if everyone has just left stasis at this point.
I think he discovers the blue beacons. And then he kind of just goes around the planet trying to find a way to unfreeze everybody, because he takes the beacon and then everyone starts becoming unfrozen. And that's where the Voyager uses her powers, and it's like, I'm going to be an Avenger. And she's like, what was it? What was her whole speech? I'm going to reach out with my power to everyone close by whoever calls themselves an Avenger. And then we assemble. So she gets everybody that have called themselves an Avenger at some point in time in their publication history. And that's a lot of people, ladies and gentlemen. She gathers everybody and uses her powers to teleport them to the Challenger. And then from there, they're traveling around the world trying to save as many people as possible as the Challenger is wrecking shit. And then Challenger gets his hands on the Voyager. And he's like, you, Daddy's little girl. I'm like, Daddy's a little spoiler. Sorry. Daddy's little spoiler. Somehow that sounds worse.
So there's basically like, all right, so the Grandmaster is out of commission temporarily, or at least he's left his station to where it's like, this is what's helping keep planet Earth stable, even though it's been teleported away from where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we need people to keep this wheel from spinning out of control, so it will let the planet rotate normally. And we've also got a supply power to this electrical thing. So they have Thor and Living Lightning as like a supply energy. And then we've got Hercules on the wheel to keep it still. And then we've also got Citizen V, also known as Robert DaCosta.
Yeah.
He's surprisingly strong.
Of course he is.
And then, was it Wonder Man who challenges Grandmaster?
Yes.
He just goes, I think he just goes, poker, hold'em, no limits, you in?
God.
And Nino was like, Grandmaster can't resist the challenge, so he's like, yeah, okay.
Shit, yeah, let's do it. It's funny. It's great.
And they even raise the stakes as high as they can go. He's like, if you win this, all memory of me is erased. Like, everything I've done good for these people, no one knows who I am. But if I win, you're putting Earth back where you stole it from, okay, mister?
And of course, from there we jump to other scenes of everybody fighting the challenger. And he says, I raise. He's like, what? I bet your life and your planet. What else do you have? My history, your daughter, alters memories. I bet you can, too. So if you win, I'm forgotten. Ooh.
And I think at that point, he's like, I fold. The Grandmaster folds. He's like, I can't do this.
Yeah, and then we jump to all the other Avengers again fighting. It all comes down to Citizen V playing poker. And he's like, I fold. Fine. You owe me 2 Avengers and an Earth. Now. And he's like, I had a full house. King high. At least tell me what I lost to. Did you have the better hand? Were you bluffing? I have to know. I have to know how you won. And he says, oh, honey, I don't play.
Like, I don't even know it. I'm not sure if it shows what hand he had, but I'm guessing he's like, yeah, I don't know how to play this game.
I'm like,
Which is fucking funny.
It is, because he just bamboozled the Grandmaster. Oh, God. And then from there, the Challenger gets beat by the Avengers. Everyone's like, yay, cool. And then the Earth gets put back with Captain Marvel standing there. She's like, oh shit, it came back. And they're like, Captain, readings are normal. It's the real deal. And she's like, thank God. And then are all. And then to end everything, the Voyager basically comes down. She's surrounded by the Avengers, and she's basically apologizes. There's no proper way to, and of course she this is where she leaves. She's like, there's a proper way to say farewell after everything I put you through. But she tries to make the best of it. She's like, I know, I fucked up. My bad. And she takes the Challenger and she teleports away. And the Grandmaster takes his the Black Order.
The Lethal Legion?
The Lethal Legion.
Or does he take both of them?
Both of them lead, but the Grandmaster's with the Black Order. And Lethal Legion's on Nowhere, doing their own thing, drinking or whatever, because they've survived the battle. And you kind of get little different spots of the Avengers and what they're doing afterward. Nothing really that important. And then they release the heroes that were taken. Oh, what were those? Let me see what were those crystals.
Yeah, we get Red Wolf and Johnny Storm. They come back.
Oh, physical reality, yeah. So they all come back to reality. And then we get a shot with Bruce Banner, interaction, all that fun stuff. You want to know anything about that? Come back to a Bruce episode. And then we see at the very end, they talk about the Avengers and the finest hour. And you see a statue of all the Avengers, which they really work fast on making a statue. And then the epilogue is where we see the Voyager again. She is on the far shore with the Challenger. And she basically has him there. She's watching over him. This is his prison now, the far shore. He's not allowed to go anywhere near reality. He lost, and now he is forever banished from reality in the multiverse. And then the Voyager and the Challenger are seen watching everything play out. And he says, I want to see what happens next. And that is the end of the Avengers No Surrender.
A fascinating story.
Right? And we get a nice character of the Voyager being the forgotten Avenger, as well as the turns out to be the Grandmaster's daughter. But fear not, because the Voyager, Valerie Victor, does exist. As part of one of the many encyclopedias, it has been stated in Earth 1712-2, Valerie Victor does exist. And she was a founding member of the Avengers. So the backstory that Vani Gas told became an actual, in the multiverse, became real. So Valerie Victor is real somewhere in the multiverse. Fun fact. And then from there, we don't see the Voyager again till No Road Home, which is a story about what happens basically right after the No Surrender happens. This story is mostly a Hercules. I would say it's more of a Hercules-centric story. Hercules, Scarlet Witch.
Oh yeah, this new one coming out. This one that was No Road Home.
Yeah, No Road Home.
Quick aside. You talk about this one. I need to check on my dog and use the bathroom. Do you mind?
Sure.
Like, you just keep talking and then
I'll go on. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
So No Road Home takes place exactly right after the Avengers No Surrender. And the story goes, Voyager starts gathering all the Avengers. And she's like, I fucked up. I fucked up real bad, y'all. And she mentions that when she moved the Earth and the Moon to the location that was, or the location that they were at for No Surrender, she also, by moving the Moon, she released something horrifying and terrifying. The most terrifying thing she ever could see or heard. She takes everybody, including Hercules, to Mount Olympus, where he sees all the gods, the great gods, the Olympians, dead. All dead, murdered, butchered. And they're like, who done this? And of course, Hercules sees Athena, and Athena tells her, the one that shall not be spoken, or something along those lines, did this. Don't say her name. And Scarlet Witch says, Nyx? Something to do with they mentioned something about the night, and then Scarlet Witch says the Nyx. And then Nyx sticks her, she sticks her hand through Scarlet Witch's head, making her blind. And you get the introduction of Nyx. So the whole deal was Zeus sealed away Nyx, because Nyx in Greek mythology is the goddess of night, the personification of the night. And she is the one thing that Zeus is terrified of. Zeus sealed her away as long as the moon and the sun, the moon and the earth are rotating in the particular way they are, she is sealed away. The fact that they were moved, Nyx was freed. So the first thing Nyx did with her kids, she went out and murdered the Olympians, the Greek gods. They're all dead. Then from there, we jump through this whole story about how Nyx is on this mission to wreak havoc and chaos as it seems fit. From here, we see next time we see Voyager again is with issue 2. We begin with a flashback. Voyager has challenged a prisoner on the far shore, is making him watch the current events of the Avengers with her. And she hopes this will inspire the Challenger to do good. And from there, at that moment, he didn't. At the moment he did. So she basically is trying to get the Challenger to become good by watching the Avengers. And then bursts of agony passes through them. And Voyager focuses her screens on Mount Olympus and sees Nyx attacking with their children. Zeus, Hermes. Zeus. So from there, Zeus tells Swift Hermes to go fetch Hercules, but Hypnos, one of her kids, which is sleep, casts dust to send him to sleep, and then stabs him with a Zephyrus sword. And then you got a couple other of her kids, Dolos, which is trickery, and then Appetite. I'm terrible with these names. So a couple of her kids wreak havoc and kill gods, basically. And then the Voyager realizes,
Was it Abate?
Abate. Yes, I'm terrible with names. So her and her children basically slaughtering the gods. And then you got Misery. So from there, that's when Voyager realizes this is when Challenger and her father, Grandmaster, moved the Earth in No Surrender arc of the Avengers. So all this happened during when the Earth was moved, as she killed the Olympians on Mount Olympus. From there, the Voyager leads the Challenger to go assemble the Avengers to fight Nyx. And then from here, it's pretty much a story of the Avengers, mostly centered around Hercules for the most part, as they go around trying to take on Nyx. Voyager joins them as trying to look up Voyager moments here. It's basically Voyager kind of just joins them as they try to take down Nyx. Now, the whole purpose of all of this fight, TLDR, too long didn't read, because the Voyager, again, is with the Avengers trying to take down Nyx throughout this whole little 10-issue series. Nyx is trying to find the, what do they call it? The Nyx crystals. And with the Nyx crystals, let's see.
Weren't they called like the Shards of Night?
Shards of Night, there you go. Not Nyx crystals. What
like
the fuck?
Night that was, Night that is, and Night that will be.
Yes. So she's trying to gather these three crystals because these three shards are basically her powers divided. And if she gathers them all, that's not good. So towards the end of all this, as they're trying to hunt down these three shards, Vision thinks he has to put a stop to her. So Primordial Goddess scouts as I'm trying to find where we get to the House of Ideas, because everything comes up to a point where Nyx I'm kind of reading ahead.
I think that's like the next to last issue.
Yeah, I'm on the last issue currently. So Vision finds himself healed of all injury, increasing damage as he's been suffering lately. Nyx tells him that this house is the home of the one above all, the creative force of this reality. She claims that she will remake their universe from here. Vision wonders if the original creator will object, but she says the universe has been destroyed and recreated many times. It's not all part of the creator's plan? Vision thinks he has been put here to stop her. Primordial Goddess scouts at this. He's not even human. the Avengers files. So she eventually makes it to the house, and Avengers files in this database tell of all heroes who have fought and went against darkness. And here in this House of Ideas may rise to the challenge again. The windows may have no wind. The house may have no windows, but all the stories are windows, and this is where all stories are born. So now he has his imagination to conjure up images of heroes to send them against Nyx. So basically, Vision and towards the end, when Nyx gets to the House of Ideas to try to destroy the universe and create it to where she's all powerful, Vision conjures up all these heroes that go against Nyx. The first batch are Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Wiccan, and Winter Soldier. The second wave is Caroline Dean, Chase Stein. Oh God, who are these? Old Lass of the Runaways, along with Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, followed by Bishop, Cable, Deadpool, and Gambit. And then he throws in Cannonball, Cloak, Dagger, Elektra, Adder, and Shadowcat with Lockheed, She-Hulk, Jessica Drews, Spider-Woman as a encore, Mr. Knight, which is a other personality of Moon Knight, Nightcrawler, Nova, and Wolverine to pile in. All this while Vision has been saying that these imaginative creations of light of the human spirit will always triumph over the creations like her scattered throughout the universe. So humanity will have the light will always be around, basically. She's trying to make this world and universe center around darkness. So from there, they fight. The heroes fight. He sends in another wave of a bunch of heroes. Vision says to Nyx that he is trying to impose her rule, but this reality ignores rules and further possibilities. She can't win because she's playing against the House of Ideas. And then more heroes come in, and Nyx begins to wither and shrink under the onslaught. Finishing blows landed by Marvel's World War II Captain America, Bucky, and then Vision has completely transformed into the original android, the Human Torch. Fun fact for all, if you didn't know, the Human Torch was not always Johnny Storm. There is another Human Torch from the original, like old school Marvel days. When it was still being called Timely Comics, the Human Torch was an android that would set itself on fire. So the Vision becomes the Human Torch and then takes out Nyx. So that's when Nyx loses. Yeah, Nyx dies, basically, at that point. Of course, darkness will always return. So basically they're saying darkness will always be around as long as there's light. So even though he defeated Nyx, Nyx will always be around. Because you can't have darkness without light, and you can't have light without darkness. So that's what the whole story is about. You have to have light and darkness together. So even though you might get rid of one, they're always going to come back. From there, Vision leaves the house and meets up with the Voyager and everyone else. And of course, we jump to we're all over the world. The world's coming back to normal. There's no eternal night anymore. And then, do you remember what happens at the end with the Voyager of the story after she comes back from the No Road Home storyline?
I think she goes back to the Farscape to check on Challenger.
The Far Shore, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
She goes back to the Far Shore and
notices that the Challenger is missing. He broke through his shackles.
Yeah. So she's just left standing there going, "Uh-oh."
I leave for an indefinite amount of time, and this happens?
Yeah, she pieced the fuck out. or he pieced the fuck out. And she's like, God damn it. And that is the last time. Oh, also Conan the Barbarian was in the story as well.
Yeah, that was surprising. I was like, I didn't know he was in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, because originally Conan was also a Marvel comic at one point, and he came back into Marvel Comics, but now he's gone again. There's a whole weird thing. He joined the whole Savage Avengers line series, but then Marvel did not want to renew the license for Conan again, so Conan has now left Marvel again. And I'm just like, why? So Conan was part of the story, which is pretty cool. That's basically the story of this, is that Nyx got released from the Earth and the Moon moving, and then the Voyager gathered the Avengers, and then they went on their journey to try to stop Nyx. Again, this is more of a Hercules-centric episode story, pretty much. So the Voyager's just there as a teleporter, and she helps with some of the fighting, but she doesn't have like a main big plot in the story. She's more used as I'm the doorway. So... and then at the very end, we also get somewhere in space a new Olympus is born, with an all new and all different Zeus, which again is more of on a cosmic gods, like, because basically they filled the void that the Asgardians left, because this is right after the this is right after some event where Asgard was destroyed, so there was like a empty void vacuum, and the Olympus got reborn to fill that vacuum. So now they're in space somewhere. You see them again in Guardians issue 1, volume. Okay, I don't remember what volume, but they come up again in Guardians with Hercules. So, what are your thoughts on the Voyager? Reading all this.
I think I kind of like her. I was like, an original Avenger from the very beginning, and then you find like, oh, it was all a trick. And then I thought she was just going to be another villain, like, I'm going to win everything for the Grandmaster, but then she's like the sympathetic villain. But I guess it's not, I don't think she really would qualify as a villain because she doesn't do anything wrong or evil. No. But for the time being, you kind of think she's an antagonist.
Yeah.
But then again, she doesn't really do much to impede the protagonists or the heroes at all. She just hides the Pyramoid briefly and tries to keep Hulk from getting it.
Pretty much. Because she ends up becoming an event, or liking being a Avenger. So she ends up helping in some way, but she takes the last shard or last pyramid to defy her father in a way, in hopes that will stop all this, or have her, or give it to the Avengers or whatnot. I don't know where her plan was, trying to go into that vault. Unless she knew, of course, she knew about the Hulk, so she's like, oh, I'm gonna go in here and the Hulk won't get to me. Huh. Sadly, he did, but she tried. I don't know, but unfortunately, the Voyager has not shown up in comics since then. So I'm curious to see where she may pop up again. Because the Challenger hasn't showed up either.
Yeah, and Voyager has very incredible powers. Like, I can teleport anywhere and manipulate space.
Yeah.
And possibly also memories.
Yeah. So I'm real
that
curious.
Stuff's really useful. And I'm not really sure how to gauge a superhero on their likability, because all I really know is, like, here are her powers, here's her appearance, and here was her motive. And I'm like, I think I like her, but I'm not like, I love this person.
What? She pops up in another comic back in the what, 90s? What? Hold up. Am I tripping? Okay, I'm looking back here. So apparently, I'm looking through her appearances on this Marvel Heroes Library. Whoever makes this site, thank you. Looks like the Voyager pops up in Quasar issue 33. But but where? What? That does not say anything about it at all. So apparently the Void... That's not true, though. She does not pop up in here. She's created by... Don't listen to me. I'm tripping. But the Voyager... But Quasar is listed here. And I'm like, that's not right. Because she was created back in... for the Avengers 676, which was the beginning of... what they call it? The beginning of No Surrender. Don't listen to me. They had me fooled for a second. But yeah, no, Voyager, I think, is a very interesting character. I hope they bring her back, because I'm not gonna go over any ideas on how I would say they could bring her back with the Challenger, because you never know. One day in the future, I could be writing Marvel comics. Don't. It's a pipe dream, but you never know. An opportunity might show up someday.
In the meantime, I will use this to plug some books that you can use to make your own comic books.
Do you have any?
Okay, so there's a book called Graphic Novels, Everything You Need to Know by Paul Gravett.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like, here are the different types of graphic novels you can make, and they have examples. It's how I found out about some kinds of comics that I have not read, such as I think one's called Cerebus, which is about an aardvark. And there's two books that are by Scott McCloud. One is called Making Comics, and the other one is called Understanding Comics. And I think Understanding Comics is available as a free PDF. I don't know where, though.
Okay, interesting.
But if you want to try and make some comic books or graphic novels for yourself, get these books, and they'll give you some steps.
Work. Because that's another dream of mine someday. One day. You know, that may happen someday. You never know. People get into comics in ways and parts in life that you would never think they would, but they do. So you never know. I can go into a whole thing about how I would bring Voyager back, but I don't want to go over that. I keep that to myself. So, Tyler, my first guest for House of Ideas. Do you have anything you want to plug in for yourself? For the listeners to go follow you at, or if you want to plug in any of the other podcasts you're on?
I was about to say, like, I don't really do social media that much, but I mean, if you like D&D, there's the Voidonica podcast, where if you're listening to the first campaign, I'm playing a Tabaxi monk, who has big plans that have already happened. Or the more recent episodes. Have we uploaded campaign 2 yet?
No, I have not. I am currently still working on that.
Okay, I'll just say I'm in that one too, but it's a different character.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Marvel game. The Marvel little campaign that we did. And,
of course, Spookocalypse, where we talk about scary things with an eldritch being known as Zio, a mad chairman, a keeper of the house, and then a Bunyip.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that we kept the tradition of those names going since I started that podcast. I love it. And actually, Housekeeper is somewhere in this House of Ideas somewhere. Keeping record. Probably sitting back in some room, typing like, God, I'm gonna write up an intro for this bitch. for his damn podcast so he can remember what the hell to say.
Yeah, wasn't there wasn't a script for the housekeeping part?
No.
Oh no.
No.
Make that publicly available on the Google Drive for all of us to just reference whenever.
Right.
It's like, oh, this person isn't here, but we got to take over.
I keep forgetting to have Tiff or housekeeper post it in the Discord chat and be like, here's the intro that you could use to reference with, so people like me don't have to fumble over it. But that is to be seen for another day. Any final thoughts before we end today's episode?
This was an interesting experience, but I'm definitely going to need more time to read some of this stuff.
Oh,
so I
yeah.
can have it all in my head and be like, all right, let me tell you about our next character.
Oh, no, that's fair. That is fair. That is very fair. But I chose this character, Voyager, for the first episode because she's personally one of my favorites, and one of my not like big favorites, but she's up there. And of course, she's my first. She was in the first story that I read for an Avengers comic. So I have a weird fondness over the Voyager, and I hope she comes back
now
someday.
It's my first Marvel's reading.
Your first Avengers and Marvel comic?
Yes. And then
I open up Pandora's box for you then.
Possibly, but also towards the beginning of the episode, you're like, I grew up on these animations, and like I remember those, but I don't know if they drove me to read as much comics. Then again, we didn't have a whole lot of money to buy comics. We were busy buying other stuff.
Well, I didn't start buying comics till I was in my 20s. I was like, 2015, I would have been 8 years ago, 23, 24?
Yeah, I'd be 23 as well. That's when I started buying graphic novels, and it was like, they made a bigger impression on me than comics did, but I might look into this stuff sometime. Maybe even look at obscure comics that might even not even have to do with Marvel.
Right? No, definitely. But yeah, I was into manga and mostly manga throughout my childhood and teen years, and then of course I watched like the Marvel films. I didn't get into the comics 2015. It's like 23, 24, because I never really found the Western comic art style that interesting. And then for whatever reason, I looked at Avengers No Surrender, and I'm like, Secret Wars. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, let me get all up in this. And then it was a downward spiral from there. And then here we are, 8 years later, and I'm talking about Marvel. So, thank you, Tyler, for joining me for the first episode of House of Ideas.
And thank you for inviting me.
Of course, you're always welcome back. I know you have a character in mind that you want to talk about on a later episode.
Mm.
And we will put that down at a later episode, so we have more than enough time to go over this character's publication history. Because this one's a little bigger than the Voyager. He shall be back, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, if you want to catch Tyler, go over to the Spookocalypse or Voyager if you want to listen to his amazing voice. He does have a great voice. There are gonna be comments, I swear, that are gonna be like, they're gonna be comments, I swear, he's like, oh my god, Tyler has a great voice, because everyone says that.
No, and I'm not in anticipating it very well.
Give Tyler some love. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to the first episode of House of Ideas. Join us next time as we do another Marvel character. And if it's the one I'm thinking, let me double check. Which character do I have listed next? I'm not going to say who it is. So join us next time as we talk about that. Until then, bye.
Goodbye.
Please see your way out of the House of Ideas. Please clean up the dirt on your way out. This cleaning ain't cheap here in this house, yo. Take care of it. Damn. Bye. chat.